Shane Bauer, Sheriff Shroud, and Josh Fatal are the authors of a new memoir. It is called Sliver of Light, Free Americans Imprisoned in Iran. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's so great to see all of you here.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
There must be times you didn't know whether you'd ever be here. Or was it always confident that you would somehow get through this?
No, there were times when we didn't know if we would get out, if we'd ever come home or see our families again. But the reason we chose the title for our book is because somehow we were always able to bring ourselves back. And that was really a lot of the strength that was between us as friends.
How did this happen?
I mean, simply, I had a feeling you were going to ask that. Simply, you know, we were in Kurdistan, and we asked the hotel manager where we were staying where to go. We wanted to go on a hike, and he pointed to this place. He said it's a great place to go to get out of town. And we went and we hiked up behind the waterfall a bit, and we found out it really actually wasn't a great place to go at all.
And Sarah and I had been living in the Middle East. We didn't kind of travel straight there. Josh came to visit us. You know, I'd been working as a journalist in the Middle East for a few years before that.
You know, we followed this so closely when all of you were imprisoned. We were concerned about you. There were many journalists who also pressed our government about why they were not helping to get all of you released. One of the questions I think many people ask is, what were you doing there? How did you not know that you were so close to the border of Iran and not concerned about that? What were you doing hiking there? There are lots of beautiful places to go hiking.
Yeah. Well, you know, as Shane mentioned, we'd been living in Damascus in Syria for over a year. I was teaching Iraqi refugees. Shane was working as a journalist. And that's actually a beautiful, green place and a safe place to travel. Northern Iraq is not a war zone, and no American has been killed or captured there in decades.
Why did they keep you in solitary confinement?
Well, they never gave me a reason. Solitary confinement is the worst thing that any of us experienced. I spent most of my day pacing back and forth, crouched by a small food slot in my door, listening for sounds, eating food with my hands like an animal. I think what Americans need to know is that solitary confinement doesn't just happen in places like Guantanamo or Iran. It's a widespread practice in our own country. The UN has condemned it, and it's not just used against violent criminals. It's often used for petty offenses for years or decades.
What does it do to you?
It takes a very harsh toll. I hallucinated. I had panic attacks where I screamed and beat at the walls.
Mm-hmm. The two of you, though, maintained a sliver of light, and part of it was because of your relationship. In fact, tell us about this thread that kept many of your hopes alive.
Yeah, Sarah and I had been together for a few years before that, and you know, when I was in solitary confinement, I really thought about what was important. The most important to me, it became very clear when everything was taken away from me, and I knew that I wanted to be with Sarah for the rest of my life and have something also to look forward to when we got out. And you know, and I think in many ways we were very lucky. You know, Josh and I spent 2 years in prison, but a lot of people, you know, around the world go through a similar situation. That are imprisoned unjustly, don't go to trial. Even here, you know, we have people, for example, in Guantanamo Bay that haven't gone to trial for many years, some at least 10 years, you know, and we as a country that believes in justice, you know, needs to kind of apply this everywhere.
Right. Just to close the loop on that, you used that thread then as to propose to her as an engagement while you were in prison.
You believe that the Iranians thought you were guilty of something?
You know, on the way down from the mountain, we went to a police station immediately. And I remember there was a man outside that police station who knew when he heard about us, he started kind of crazed, and he was saying, "Americans, do you know what America has done to these Iranians?" And he was talking about these Iranians who spent two years, and he went on, and I thought, well, yeah, he was 2 years in prison, and I thought, well, I'm not gonna be caught up in a political mess between these governments and have anything to do with these 2 years. Little did I know. And so our interrogators, after looking into us, I mean,
did they think you were CIA operatives or spies?
At first, I mean, it was like, who are these people who are near our border? They were wondering. But after a little interrogation, they realized we weren't.
And they told us that they knew that we weren't spies.
And then why?
Oh, they told you that?
They did. After about a month, they told us they knew we weren't spies, but that our situation had become political, and it would take, you know, our governments would have to work it out.
And then it wasn't until the Sultan of Oman paid your bail that you were released. Why did he pay the bail?
Well, the Omani government has long served as kind of a mediator between the Iranian government and the U.S. government, and they've played a constructive role in the region. So just months after we were detained, they knew that we were innocent and that this was going to potentially cause a lot of problems, but could also be a door, an opening for face-to-face talks and diplomacy between the U.S. and Iran. And actually, we later found out that our case opened the door for the nuclear talks. There were face-to-face talks between high-level U.S. officials and Iranian officials in Oman that helped speed up the nuclear deal. So this is actually, a guardedly hopeful time where less Americans, there was a recent Gallup poll that said far fewer Americans see Iran as their enemy anymore. And of course, it's the same in Iran. We know that better than almost any Americans because in the prison, the other political prisoners treated us with so much kindness and love. And
that's oddly the thing, the Iran we see is death to America, death to Israel, those chants. And even in the darkest place of the prison system, I was able to get glimmers of many other Irans of people throwing candies into my cell, guards even saying they're praying for my release. So the complexity of it is a lot more than sometimes we see.
It is often said sometimes that the governments that hate us the most, the people like us the most.
Right.
Well, thanks to all of you. We certainly were so worried about you while you were there. I'm glad to see you here.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And A Sliver of Light goes on sale tomorrow.